The Trump administration has made some sort of asylum deal with El Salvador. Now, this is something that the Trump administration has been pushing for, and what this deal would essentially do is allow the United States to turn asylum seekers away at the border and direct them for refuge in El Salvador. Now, keep in mind that there are people fleeing El Salvador due to crime. However, crime has dropped in the country. It's decreased 50% since last year, but still, we're still seeing asylum seekers from El Salvador today. Now, US officials described the deal as an asylum cooperation agreement, insisting that such an accord does not amount to what is known as a safe third country deal. That term has been stigmatized in Central America in large part because it would be difficult to consider the Northern Triangle region of El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala as a safe haven, given that it has among the highest homicide rates in the world. By the way, the asylum seekers that are likely to be sent to El Salvador include individuals from Nicaragua, Cuba, and other nations. As part of the plan, the United States will help build an asylum system in El Salvador and in other nations in the region, seeking to fund the effort through the United Nations refugee agencies. So I actually think that second part is great, and that's where Trump should be focusing, right? Like, what can we do to solve like the root of the problem? So the root of the problem isn't, oh, people are fleeing violence and coming to the United States, so we need to get rid of them. Like, the violence that they're running from is something that we can help these countries combat, so we don't have these giant groups of asylum seekers coming to the border. But he hasn't done that. I mean, he's pulled foreign aid out of these countries. He's been incredibly punitive toward them if they don't give him exactly what he wants. And that's actually made the crisis at the border worse. So I like that he's at least willing to help build up some of these countries and help fund them so we don't have as much of a crisis as we do.
Yeah, no, I think that that's a really good point, because essentially if they're fleeing from this poverty, destruction, murderous environment, and there's no kind of social support system put in place to reduce that, then essentially having that 50% drop in homicide rate will be, for nothing essentially, because it might even go back to being that way if you are continuing to throw people back into that environment without a safety net or some way to keep them from joining gangs, which was a big problem in El Salvador, or other things that will really cripple the system even further. So there has to be something there and that investment made.
Yeah, and it sounds like from what I read, it's kind of like right now it's just a reshuffling. You're Guatemalan, you go to El Salvador. You're Salvadorian, you go to Guatemala. Which is not a solution. And the unfortunate thing is, it really is an inhumane. Some of these solutions are inhumane in that, we are privileged to be living here. This guy, Donald Trump, is privileged to have been born here. If he were born elsewhere in one of these countries, his life would be very different. But if you look at the world, not just as a country, but as a human being, we're all part of the same earth. Then you try to find humane ways to deal with this. Yes, the immigration system is broken, but to say I'm gonna turn you back around and send you to another violent place is not the solution either.
Exactly.
But what you said is part of the solution, which is let's try and build these places up. Let's try and build more security in these places. Then you say, okay, yeah, we can send you back to a safe place. But to send these people back to a place that's probably still very unsafe, in my opinion, is not good enough. It's actually really a bad idea.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And one thing that I find so fascinating about how the story is being reported and the different groups of people who are gonna be diverted now to El Salvador. Like, you have Cubans, like Cuban refugees involved in this, right? And I say refugees, but that's not really the right word. Asylum seekers, I guess.
Right.
And remember, we granted amnesty to generations of Cubans. I mean, because hey, they were persecuted through communism and Castro. We've heard all that propaganda over and over again. And some of them were, right? So I understand, you let them in. I'm not saying that you turn them away, but you have giant voting blocks in Florida consisting of Cubans who love Donald Trump, while he is literally turning their own people away. And they'll support that immigration policy because, hey, I got mine.
Yes.
Well,
I got mine, right? So who cares about new waves of Cuban immigrants trying to come in for economic opportunities or asylum?
You just reminded me of something that happens in my community, the Iranian American community. It really is bothersome to me. There are a lot of Iranians, there's a handful of Iranians who are pro-Trump. Now I sit there, I go, first of all, I go, okay, if you're Republican and it's a fiscal thing, I understand. But let's call this guy what he is. He's, he is a racist. He is a sexist. He is a bad human being. Let's call a spade. And then when he comes and he does this travel ban where he bans Iranians from coming to America, and it's not terrorists that are coming, it was students that were coming to America who would come here to better themselves. They're already getting crushed under the Iranian government, which is a bad government. It's an oppressive government.
Yeah.
Now they can't come here. And then you got these people that continue, they make excuses for Trump.
Of course.
The original excuse on the travel ban was, oh no, it's only 90 days so that he can figure out what's going on and fix it. Well, it's been 2 years.
Yeah.
And I get messages all the time. I got a message just a couple of days ago from a lady who said, I've married somebody, I'm an American citizen, he's in Iran, I'm having trouble getting him here. There's families that are separated, there's people that are separated because that need medical attention. There's a lot going on. And yet, within my own community, there's people, yes, you people, I'm talking to you. You can tweet me if you want, you can criticize me if you want, but you're supporting Trump and you shouldn't be, and you should stand up for these people that are immigrants, just like you and I were, that are trying to come here for a better life.
Yes. I can't stand people who take advantage of opportunities and shut the door behind them.
Yes.
Makes me sick, honestly.
Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.